Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This hadith is by Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, and I'm sure we've heard this narration, or at least a part of it, before. He says that I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyati." That each one of you is a shepherd, or is a guide, or has some kind of authority. وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِي. And each one of you will be asked about your herd, about your flock, about those who were under your supervision, under your authority. And then he gives examples. He says, "Al-Imam ra'in wa mas'ulun an ra'iyati." That a leader, an imam, he is responsible, and he will be asked about those who were, under his responsibility. وَالرَّجُلُ رَاعٍ فِي أَهْلِهِ. A man is, responsible, has the authority and has the responsibility given to him over his family. وَمَسْعُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. And he will be asked, about those who are under him, those who are under his responsibility. Continuing with the examples, he says, وَالْمَرْأَةُ رَاعِيَةٌ فِي بَيْتِ زَوْجِهَا. And a woman is responsible for her husband's house, meaning that the family, the children, the household, that is a responsibility, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask about that. وَمَسْئُولَةٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهَا. Continuing, he says, وَالْخَادِمُ رَاعٍ فِي مَالِ سَيِّدِهِ. That a slave, a servant, is responsible for the wealth of his master. وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. And he'll be asked. وَكُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. And he ends it the way he started it. He says that each one of you, is responsible and will be asked about those who you are responsible over. And subhanAllah, many of these are pretty straightforward. But even if we look at just وَالْخَادِمُ رَاعٍ فِي مَالِ سَيِّدِهِ, that a slave or a servant is responsible for the wealth of their master. Okay, maybe that doesn't apply right now, but to give you a relative example, just look at an employee and an employer, right? An employer puts has a certain responsibility on how they take care of their employees, how they treat their employees, and similarly the other way around. It's not one-sided. We always look at the one side, but similarly the other way around. If we're being paid, if we are an employee and we are we are given a task, or we are given a responsibility, and we have a certain time to do something, or we have a certain objective or a certain mission, something that we have to do, a task to finish. And many times we end up, the employer is not watching, or the manager is not in today, so we can do what we want to do. We have flexibility, right? But what our responsibility is, we can't cut corners in that. And it falls under this, that we will be asked. Similarly for, a teacher with students. It's easy for a teacher to, just, get by putting on a movie and letting the kids watch the movie all day in school, or just play games or not do anything. But when we have iman, and we have the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching, we realize that we have a responsibility to fulfill whatever we are given. We have to make sure we are fulfilling the rights of those students, right? This is just an example. There are many other examples like this, but this is something to understand and really realize. We always hear the first sentence that each one of you is a shepherd, or each one of you is responsible and you will be asked about your flock. But each one of us has to realize and understand. Just an example just came to my head where I believe one of the Sahaba, he was staying in one house, and he scraped one of the walls. Right? It wasn't his house, but he scraped one of the walls. Right? And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he called him out for that, because that's not your house, right? And if we're for example, we're renting, we ding something here, we write on the wall here, some corner gets chipped here, we're just like, it doesn't matter, right? But this is also a responsibility. We are given a responsibility of someone's wealth. We have to make sure we are taking care of that wealth. And there's many examples, but there was this one other narration that I wanted to share just with this. And there's it's right under it actually. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was saying that مَا مِنْ عَبْدٍ يَسْتَرْعِيهِ اللَّهُ رَعِيَّةً يَمُوتُ يَوْمَ يَمُوتُ وَهُوَ غَاشٍ لِرَعِيَّتِهِ إِلَّا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ. It's a very very scary narration, and it gives us a reality check. It says that a person who is given some authority or given some responsibility, some scholars have translated it as a governor and his subjects, or it could be just any person, any slave of Allah who has some responsibility, and that person dies in such a state, وَهُوَ غَاشٍ لِرَعِيَّتِهِ, that he wasn't fulfilling the rights, he was being treacherous. In an alternative narration, it mentions that he wasn't giving the right advice for guidance. So for example, if we have children or we have someone who's taking advice from us and we're not giving them the right advice, and we're misguiding them, right? إِلَّا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes Jannah haram on that person if he dies in that state. This is a very scary reality. And that other narration that I was mentioning about the nasiha, where the words are used of giving the wrong nasiha, the wrong advice, it says that that person will not smell the fragrance of Jannah. That person will not smell the fragrance of Jannah. So when we look back at the first narration that I just mentioned, it gives us it's a awakening to realize that whatever responsibility we have, whether it's as parents, whether it's as children, whether it's as teachers, leaders, counselors, employees, employers, renters, landlords, whatever it may be, it is something to be taken seriously. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a true understanding of what has been said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us and help us to fulfill our responsibilities on whoever it may be, whether it be our family, whether it be our children, whether it be our parents. Ameen wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhanakallah wa hamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam wa tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم أجرنا من النار. اللهم أجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. اللهم قنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا فتنة المسيح الدجال. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك وغضبك والنار. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر المسلمين في فلسطين. اللهم انصر المسلمين في فلسطين. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى. اللهم حرر المسجد الأقصى. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين ورحمتك.